All right, so welcome. Hello again, Gary. Basically, having Gary on means I don't have to talk to myself or play with myself.
I was going to just ask me to. It's actually about apartments, not street.
Apartments, yes, that's right. Yes, so you want to talk about EV charging when you've got an EV and you live in an apartment, because here in Australia, there aren't very many places where you can stick up an EV charger or even plug into a socket in the apartment car park because the strata people will go, no, it's going to catch fire, it's terrible. Although I
Yeah,
think rules and laws are changing. And I know in other countries that I visited um, where they I think it was where was I? Thailand, I think. And I was talking to one guy. I was in the taxi. It was actually a BYD E6, and he was going on about, well, they've now got to put in chargers in apartments because most people in Thailand live in a condo or an apartment block, and so they got to start putting in chargers in the car parks. And it's law. So we don't
it's
have that
actually.
very much in this country, do we?
Well, as of October 2023, the law did change where it was mandated that any new apartment or commercial buildings had to have chargers for each bay, each parking bay. So that's for anything new. So if you spent your millions and you wanted to build, a bunch of apartments, you would have to make sure that every single one of those bays had at least a 10 amp plug available to plug into, 10 amp socket. So that's good, but that still doesn't solve the problem of lots of people that live in apartments right now, where you're correct in saying the strata management can potentially make life difficult for someone who wants to have an EV and charge up in their own car parking space in their own apartment that they own. So that's basically what I wanted to try and think about tonight. Is it still worth buying an EV when you live in an apartment and you have to probably charge at a fast charger somewhere nearby?
Yes. So the fast chargers are around the 60 cents per kilowatt that you shove into the
Yes.
car. You can get it for 45 and even 20. And destination charges, certainly in Australia, a lot of shopping centres are free. I know down
Yes.
at my local shopping centre, there's three EV plugs. One's Tesla, the other two are um, it's a Schneider dual port. It's only got
Mm.
7 kilowatts, but that's fine because all the cars that plug in there, like the BYDs and so on, will only take the 7 kilowatts, um, and they're free. So
Yeah.
that certainly is a help. When I did go to another place, there's a Tesla charger in Rockingham, one Tesla charger, destination charger. I got there one day in the morning for a meeting, and there was a Tesla parked there, plugged in. I go, oh, okay. And there was this lady walking across the car park in a dressing gown and slippers. And she went up, yeah, she went up to the Tesla and got in. And I went over and go, um, do you live here? She said, I live in an apartment. And my husband put it on the charger this morning when he went to work about 4 hours ago. And I've just
Mm.
got notified it's full. So I'm moving it.
Ah,
That was
that's
free.
interesting. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. No,
Um,
no. Yeah, I've heard of people. There's some free charges up in Kalamunda, destination charges, and people often go there to just fill up, go for do some shopping or have a coffee or whatever. And yeah, it just makes life a bit easier for the people that live in Kalamunda. And not just writing down Kalamunda free charges just in his mapping, just to remind himself to go there. The secret is out. So I did some maths and see if this kind of makes sense to you. Um, Apparently, Australian drivers, we drive around 33 kilometers on average per day. So that's 231 kilometers a week. that each person drives on average. So I thought, let's round that up to 250 k's a week, just to make it a bit easier, because I'm not very good at math. So therefore, that's 250 k's a week, and the average for most EVs is about 17 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers.
Give or take, yes.
Give or take. I mean, mine's 15. I mean, I'm being generous towards, the more kind of, wasteful, less efficient side of things here. Because mine's about 15. Yours is a Tesla Model Y. It's probably about 13, I
No,
think.
it's a 14.7 at the moment, since new, 32,000 Ks.
There you go. That's pretty good. So 17 is being generous against the EV, right? So 70 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So that means 17 times 2.5 for the
Yes.
250 kilometers. That's 42 and a half kilowatt hours are used for that 250 Ks. So then if I times that 42.5 kilowatt hours times 60 cents per kilowatt hour, that costs, guess what?
$14, give or take.
$25.50 a week. I hope
25.
I've got that right. Yeah. So
How many
60
kilowatt
cents,
hours? Sorry, was that 42?
42.5.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, 25.
So if you're in an apartment and you own, I don't know, an EV that costs between 40 and 50 or 60 grand, depends, but you can get them for 32 and a half now, the Aura, around 40 for the cheaper BYD Dolphin and MG4. And I can't believe the Tesla Model 3 is actually 54 grand right now, 55 grand, and the Model Y is only 56 grand. It's like,
Yes.
why would you bother with a Model 3? Seriously.
Well, yes, why would you?
But unless you particularly love that particular shape and you want an extra couple of seconds off your 0 to 100. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty affordable. If you're going to buy a brand new car and you think, oh, I can't have an EV because they won't allow me to charge in my apartment. Well, actually you can, and you'll still be saving money, because if we say, oh, by the way, that would only take you about 15 to 20 minutes to top up from that 40% to 80%. How much petrol would that cost though? So would you say an average of ICE cars is about 8 liters per 100 kilometers? That's also being generous to them.
That's being generous, yes.
Okay,
You'll get
so
your
I'm being
Yaris and Corollas down closer to 5, but anything that's equivalent, like a Camry, you're looking at 7 to 8. Yeah,
and 10 for anything that's slightly bigger,
yes,
use and things. So let's say that's 20 liters of fuel, right? So 8 liters per 100 kilometers, so 250 Ks would be about 20 liters of fuel. Petrol prices are down quite a lot lately, but let's say the average is about $1.80 per liter for unleaded. I actually don't know how many unleaded cars there are still on the road. They still use that because that's the price they advertise on the signs, whereas
most of the cars are unleaded now, unless you go and buy your performance ones.
What about your 95 RON and your 98 RON? Because I mean, they're unleaded, but they're more expensive. I just don't know which of the pure kind of really cheap petrol cars anymore. But let's say that you're using unleaded. It's about $1.80 a liter. I think that sounds fair. 20 liters, that's $36. So even if and this is skewed against all the EV stuff, even then you're still saving $10.50 per week in fuel.
Yes.
If you have an EV over an ICE car. That probably doesn't sound a lot, but over a year that's $546. Over 5 years, that's $2,730 that you've saved. Just saved, not what it's cost you, just what it saved. Never mind any maintenance, repairs, etc. that you've saved money on as well, because obviously EVs are far less costly generally, unless you've got a company like MG that's still wedded to the old service cost structure, which is quite expensive. But because Tesla, you got a Tesla, it's $0 basically for servicing, isn't it? You don't have to. There's no service schedule.
And you're not counting in there the free charging that you can get at shopping centres and so on.
No, not counting anything free. I've gone for pretty much what we find is, well, generally one of the more expensive Ampol charges, 60 cents a kilowatt hour. So yeah, I mean, you can actually, I wanted to do this as an experiment. You can actually save money by having an EV in an apartment and still save money even though you're having to charge fast charges elsewhere, nearby Ampol or whatever. I mean, obviously, if you're going to destination charges, they're free. There's some that are cheaper, fast charges. Like if you go to Ross's discount home thing in Guildford, that's 40 cents a
So that's
kilowatt hour.
about 40 cents. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually quite surprised. I didn't know the answer to this before I started doing the math, but even after I did the math, I thought, well, that's really good. That doesn't even take into account the fluctuating petrol prices, because I'm sure that in a few months they'll be above $2 again.
Well, the price is varying from about $1.70 to $2.20. We've got this stupid price cycle every 2 weeks. It skyrockets, and then every day it comes down a few cents, and then it charges up again. But the average is over the period is closer to $2 a litre, which makes it even more skewed in favour of the EV.
Yes. Plus, I mean, obviously the benefits of the EV: smoother, faster, quieter, just generally, nicer, much nicer
Less
experience to drive.
pollution and so on. Yeah. So
Yeah.
look, people in an apartment can still own an EV, and as you say, it works out cheaper. I mean, people go, oh, there's hardly any chargers around, but just look on PlugShare. There is an amazing number of chargers around, and all very close. I mean, I've got Ampol with Amp Charge just literally 1.5 k's down the road, and it's got two chargers there. And then if I just go down the freeway, so maybe about 3.5 k all up, there's 2 petrol filling stations on either side of the freeway, and they've now put in some DC fast chargers.
Yep. There's plenty of options around.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got within 5 k's tops, I've got 6 fast DC chargers and 3 destination chargers, plus what I've got in my garage.
Yeah. So this one's for people like Steve, who I know is anti-EV, and he's always saying that he lives in an apartment, and he's always saying there's no way to charge, there's no chargers around. Well, actually, there are. To look for them and find them. No, there's plenty around. There's even, if you go to the Luna Theatre in Leederville, like I think I said before, they've got a charger in the car park there, destination charger, and it's free to charge. And the car parking there is free while you're charging. So you're saving money in the car parking as well. It's quite an expensive car park, actually, while you're off to Luna Theatre or whatever to, watch some cool movie.
The trouble is with EV chargers, and people say, oh, there's never a charger around. You don't see them. You see all these big petrol stations, they got a dozen or more pumps. They're great big places right at the side of the road. But if you go around the back, there's a couple of chargers there. Up at Kwinana, there's a big tyre place, Jack's Tyres. They've got 2 destination chargers, Tesla destination chargers, out the back. Now, you've actually got to make a detour around the back, but you're out the front, there's petrol stations. You don't see the chargers. And I bet people even going into the Ampol at the end of the road here, they won't see the 2 fast chargers that are there. They'll just look at them and think, oh, I've got a cable, it's another petrol pump, unless they specifically actually have a look at them.
Yeah. So I think we agree that you can own an EV when you live in an apartment and still save money.
Absolutely.
Also the maintenance and servicing. I mean, that's a huge saving over the years as well. I haven't really included that in this. But I also wanted to find out, how hard is it to actually get a charger in an old apartment? And basically, it's just like anything. You have to go through certain steps and hoops and fill in documents and stuff. But you have a discussion with your strata management to install some sort of charger in your charger bay, even if it's just a 15 amp socket. That's plenty for most cars. And I see all these people that buy an EV and they want to get a fast charger and stick in the garage. I think, well, you're wasting your money.
Look,
you won't need it.
there are people I know who have got had EVs for 5, 6, 7 years, and their family has got 2 or 3 EVs, and they run them off a 10 amp socket in the garage.
Yep, that's fine. It all depends on how many Ks you do per day. Unless you do more than, well, say around 200 Ks a day, I don't think you need a fast charger in your garage. I really don't. Just stick with a 10 amp or 15 amp socket. But so basically, there's a whole bunch of things on the internet. I can send you the links, and you can put them in the below on how to go about getting a charger of some sort put into your car parking bay in the apartment you're in. In New South Wales, they even have grants to help people get chargers in their car parking bays in apartments.
Oh,
So
that's decent. They don't have any
yeah,
grants for buying an EV yet, or anymore,
not
do they?
anymore. No,
No.
not anymore. Okay. WA is
WA
the
is
only
the
one.
only state I think that's still got grants for
Hmm.
buying an EV. The $3,500
Yep,
won't
I don't
last
know how
much
much.
longer.
No, I don't think so. So if you're thinking of buying an EV, get one. And what you want, a 3.5 grand back in your bank account, get one soon. Um, the other thing that people keep talking about with EVs in apartments and apartment people, what do you call them? The strata people. Oh, EVs catch fire. You alluded to this earlier. But you and I both know that it's all a load of crap. I mean, EVs catch fire hardly at all. In Australia, I think in my video that I did, I think there were 6 that were recorded. I think 1 was arson, 3 were caught up in a house fire. 1 was the battery just left on the side of a road from a BYD and it got water in it, and then after a few weeks it caught fire. Those kind of things. So none of them actually caught fire from themselves. It was always some outside influence. No, not any crashes caught any fire or anything. ICE are actually 80 times more likely to catch fire than EVs. So really, if strata managers want to say, oh no, you can't have the EV in here or catch fire and burn the whole place down, they should really take out all the petrol cars and hybrid cars, because they're 80 times more likely to catch fire.
Yes.
And that's
And
literally the stat.
hybrid cars are twice as likely to catch fire than an internal combustion engine because they've got the battery and the petrol.
Yeah, and the batteries are shit. Let's face it, in those. They're, they're not to the same standard as an EV with everything super sealed and managed and cooled and blah blah blah. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Just apartments. If you live in an apartment, you can still get yourself an EV and
Yeah.
save money.
And I mean, some people don't have a garage or they've got to park in the road. And there are plenty of solutions for those people. In fact, I think over in New South Wales, they're putting in chargers in the lamppost.
Yeah, yep. And they also have these pop-up ones that come out from
Yes.
the pavement.
Yeah.
For people that can only park on the street. I think unless there's a lot more government help, that is more of an issue, even than say apartment kind of charging, because it's quite prevalent in Europe. You've been there, you've seen the stuff, haven't you? I think you've taken some pictures of when you're traveling around the car, the charging on the side of the roads and stuff.
There is a humongous number of chargers, and they're very, very prevalent. I mean, even when I was in Iceland recently in Reykjavik, petrol stations. I walked past 2 petrol stations from the hotel when I was walking into the city centre that had got 2 petrol pumps and 7 EV chargers, and the other one had got 4 petrol pumps and 6 EV chargers. They got more EV chargers there than they've got petrol dispensing pumps.
Wow. That's
And
cool.
they were some of them were 50 kilowatt, and some of them, one was labeled 450 kilowatts. Now, I didn't know they could make 450 kilowatts. I thought 350 was about it for the moment, but they were labeled 450 kilowatts. So yeah, it's amazing in Europe, and especially in the Nordic countries, just how many charges there are. And I mean, we've got to start doing that. I know the West Australian government has got its uh, EV highway going, and it's getting there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I still don't think it's enough. They are putting in lots of charges for government vehicles in government buildings that people like you and I can't go and use. And I
Are they?
believe,
Are they really?
yes,
I used to work for the government. I was actually really disappointed that there were a lot of things that were said and not much done. It's like, yeah,
well,
we're gonna
they've
say we're
got
gonna do
money
this, but we
for it.
don't do much.
They are actually putting in EV chargers because they've got to buy some EVs because they're being made to, I think. But yeah, look, even in Europe and other countries, they have got a large number of EVs in as government cars and police cars and fire officials driving around
Mm.
in Tesla Model Ys.
Yeah. Um, I could say more about that, but I won't.
Yes, fire officials driving a Model Y. Hmm. EVs catch fire. Yeah, we won't go there.
No, no, I was saying I used to work for police and I was heavily trying to influence the police to get EVs to trial when I was there for quite a number of years, trying to get EVs in with um, the help. Actually, I was trying to help as much as I could, but there were people above me that were drivers. Obviously, had more say in it than I did because they are in a position. But it was really, really hard to get the fleet managers to even think about it because they were just so embedded in their model of we're going to get a petrol car from Hyundai every 3 years. And then after 3 years, we're going to basically auction it off and get another one and just keep that whole rotation cycle going all the
Yes.
time. It's like,
Yeah. Some people
and
are just locked in here. Um,
yeah,
it's petrol, it's petrol, it's petrol. That's what I've got to keep buying.
yeah.
Um, and change is hard. I mean, in America, there's a lot of uh, police peoples that are now driving Teslas.
Yeah,
Some are
absolutely.
driving Ford Marquis and so on, but they are actually buying EVs.
Yeah.
And 90% of them have gone, it saved us so much money. We're much better off with them.
Yeah, I got in touch with Tesla when I was working for police. I guess I can say I worked for them because I don't work for them anymore. When I worked for them, I couldn't say I was working for them. It's kind of weird. But we couldn't use Teslas because Tesla weren't interested in doing or helping out with any of the modifications that were needed to put the police equipment in, put the lights on the roof, put the gear in the boot and this, that, and the other. There's a lot of mods that need to be done. And I think another one that was a bit unfortunate was that they wouldn't allow us to have access to the screen because obviously that's a closed system of theirs. I don't know how they've done it in America, whether they've added a second screen for all the police stuff, but it would have been nice just to keep the one screen and have all your police apps and stuff on there. But even down to drilling into the roof of the lights and the cameras and this, that, and the other, and drilling into the dash, there was no help from Tesla with helping design all that. Whereas Hyundai were super proactive at helping with that kind of thing. So that's why they actually we trialed some Hyundai not too long ago. I think a couple of years ago. I think we've got a video on my channel just in they showed them in Perth. I
Is
think
that
it's the
Ionic 5?
yeah, the Ionic
Yeah.
5. Unfortunately, they also trialed a friggin' Toyota Hydrogen as well. And but the cop, he was the new fleet manager. Thank God, the old fleet manager was gone. But the new fleet manager was saying that the hydrogen might be better. They both drive fantastic, obviously, but he said the hydrogen might be better because they wouldn't have to wait to recharge it so much. It's quicker to fill up. That may be true, but the cost of hydrogen and the lack of hydrogen stations around, and just, it doesn't last as long. The efficiency is not there. And anyway, well, they were the things they trialed, and I should probably try and get back in touch with them to see how they went, because it's been 2 years now, and they would have finished the trial a long time ago. So,
Yeah, hydrogen. I mean, you've got to use electricity to make hydrogen to make electricity.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't understand the logic because it works out.
uh,
It's down to about 25% efficient from taking in to driving a car,
yeah,
which
it's
is
very, very inefficient.
no better than a petrol or diesel car, which is around the 20%
Well, the
efficiency.
reason, yeah, well, the reason Toyota are so wedded to hydrogen is because it basically keeps on going the internal combustion engine. It's just a different fuel for their internal combustion engine.
Yeah, it's not. It's the hydrogen is it's a fuel cell, so the
Some
hydrogen
of
is
them, some of them are
yeah,
fuel.
they are developing an internal combustion engine that runs on hydrogen. But most of the Mirai, I think, was a fuel cell.
Yes, that was, and I don't think it had much of a range, and they're also really expensive to make.
Yes,
So,
I think it had a maybe a 500-kilometer range, which with one filling hydrogen filling station in Perth meant you've got a 250-kilometer range, and you have to turn around and go back to fill it up again.
hmm, that is true. So yeah, I mean, lots of interesting stuff. Do you have anything you wanted to chat about? Now that we're
Well,
trying to
no, I
convince
was
everyone to buy a nice
one of
lives in
the
the
just
farm.
to come back to this apartment living
Hmm.
in the UK, they've been putting in a lot of those lamppost chargers in streets, but they've also got a company there called GridServe. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
GridServe built their first big EV charging station in a place called Braintree in Essex. And it had got 44 charging bays, ranging from 50 kilowatts all the way up to 350 kilowatts, varying prices. And they've also built a place where you could get a coffee, something to eat, a bookshop. You can even test drive EVs there, and they got the Leafs and they've got Teslas and Polestars and so on. You can actually just take for a test drive. So you can go in there with your petrol car, park up, and take an EV for a test drive. And they've been opening lots and lots of places, many
Hmm.
more planned, not necessarily with 44 charging bays in. I think their smallest has still got 5 or 6 charging bays. So, they put that in specifically for EV owners, but looking at people that were living in places where they couldn't charge at home.
Oh, cool. And also, if you want to leave your petrol car there, you drive an EV and just dump your petrol car. Just buy an EV, never go back around.
Yeah,
just,
it
just
might
leave
catch
it.
fire though, so be careful.
That's true.
Yeah.
Guess what I saw in Perth recently?
What?
I saw a Rivian. Actually, I saw quite a few Rivians.
Oh, yeah, because the mining companies are bringing them in
Mm.
to test them out, aren't they?
Yeah, so I saw a mining company in Osborne Park. Well, they're not a mining company. They're an EV importing car company, I guess, selling to the mining industry. Um,
Mm. Were these
and
right-hand drives, or were they having to convert them?
they haven't converted them. So
They're
yeah,
left-hand drives.
at the moment, they're left-hand drives. They're thinking about converting them. I'm hoping to be able to talk to the boss of the place sometime, get an interview. I'd like to find out about the costs and how much interest there is, and but
When
yeah,
you
he was saying, sorry.
There's the Queensland company that's importing the Ford F-150s and
No.
converting them to right-hand drive and then selling them for 196,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah. I asked this particular guy that's working there. He wasn't the boss, but I said, so how are these useful in mine sites? And he said the mine sites basically, because of all the diesel that this is underground. You're driving underground in a diesel ute. It's just chucking out pollutants all the time, and to combat the pollutants, they have to pump the air a lot. So they have to spend a ton on pumping equipment, making sure all of the particulates and pollutants are taken out of the air, because obviously it's dangerous. And then again, you've also got the cost of the fuel on top of that. So it actually makes a lot of sense to have an electric ute, because there's no pollutants that you need to try and pump out. And obviously there's much lower cost in fuel and maintenance. And yeah, so I'd like to find out more, and hopefully soon I will. In the shop that I saw, they bring them in from America, and they've got a place in America that's right next to the Rivian factory. They're one of their kind of their own offices there, and they bring them in from America, and then they put the bull bars and the lights and all the mining stuff on them for here. And they're thinking about changing them to right-hand drive, but they don't really need to, because it's licensed.
If they're driving underground, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought I was just surprised and shocked that we had Rivians, and I was just driving around and saw them.
Well, a lot of the underground mining companies are looking at getting electric trucks and what have you underground, because, as you say, you don't have all the pollution problems.
Yeah, also lower maintenance, fuel costs. Yeah, vibration, all that stuff. So
it's a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, hopefully soon, watch this space. I might be able to get some more info. Maybe even might get a ride in one. They look really nice.
What, the Rivians?
Yeah.
They are nice.
You said one, didn't you?
Test drive. I took one for a test drive in America when I was in New York.
And you got a video on that on your channel?
Yes. Yes, it's there. I walked around the Rivian thing, and then I took one for a test drive. So yes, it's on my channel. Go look.
I'll do the typical YouTuber thing. Up here is a link. Or up here, somewhere around there.
I'll try and remember to put the link in up there. Yes. Okay. Right. That's great. Thanks very much, Gary. I think it's probably time to look at winding it up. We've waffled enough.
More waffling to come.
Oh yeah, there'll be more waffling next week. Definitely. All right. So thanks very much, Gary, and see you all soon.
See you, Grumpy.
See ya.